Hey everyone, Shane here with eCharter.com. Today I have a 2020 Chrysler Pacifica. I'm going to walk through how to install the Curt Spectrum Brake Controller with the ETBC7 installation kit. This is going to be used if we're towing a trailer or something like that that has brakes on it. This will allow us to control the brakes on the trailer. Now there's a couple different modes. You have manual mode, which allows you to use a brake controller just to control the brakes on the trailer, where you will not have to apply the brakes on the vehicle. That type of situation, you know, if you have a trailer or something, you're going down a gravel hill, you don't want that trailer pushing you, and you don't want the vehicle stopping the trailer. So this allows you to apply the brakes on the trailer, so the trailer is slowing and stopping the vehicle. So again, your vehicle is not trying to stop both. This is going to be how you set your modes. Again, with the manual mode, there's a switch on the controller. It doesn't come comes preset. This way, if you're going to use manual mode, you're just going to follow the instructions for flipping the switch that's on the actual control unit. This is going to allow you to control the gain settings. Depending on how much weight you have on your trailer, you're simply going to turn it on and you're going to spin it, and you can see as it goes around and gets to this side, that light is red. The higher or the darker that color gets, from green to red, that's more brake pressure that you're getting to the trailer. So if we turn it down to, let's say, about half, when we apply the brakes in the vehicle, it's going to send the same amount of pressure to the trailer. Again, the more we go up, the more pressure you're getting back at the trailer, even though you're applying the same pressure on the vehicle. So again, this is going to be your sensitivity setting. That is going to be based on the trailer weight. It'll send more brake pressure to the trailer. If you have a heavier load, you're going to turn it down or decrease it if your trailer is lighter, and you don't need as much braking power. Now, as far as the calibration setup on this, we have quite a bit of snow out today, so we're not going to be able to take it out and calibrate it. So you just want to make sure you follow your instructions once you get it installed in order to calibrate it correctly. Durable plastic housing, it's going to come with a couple of different ways to mount it. It comes with two-sided sticky tape if you don't want to drill holes in your dash. If you decide you do want to hard mount it, there is a little plastic plate that comes with it with the self-tapping screws. You mount that. Drill your hole in your dash to run your wires, and then you're going to pop this right into place. In order to get this brake controller installed on your vehicle, it will require the ETBC7. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk you through how to get them both installed. Depending on the hitch you have, if it's draw tight, it's going to have this bracket. You're going to mount the 7-pole plug to that bracket. If it doesn't, you're going to need no drill mounting brackets, which you can find here at eTrailer. We're going to mount our plate right to our bracket here on our hitch. You want to make sure you tighten those down. We're going to take our 7-pole plug. We're going to feed the wires through the bracket like that. And you're going to have a bolt with a flat washer, lock washer, and a nut. We're going to put a bolt in each one of the corners. And then on the back side, we'll put the flat washer, lock washer, and then a nut. We'll take a Phillips screwdriver and a 3/8 socket and tighten it down. And we're going to take our 4-pole plug that's closest to the 7-pole plug. That's going to go right into our 7-pole bracket. And then the other end, we're going to have a 7 or a 4-pole plug. We're going to connect it to the 4-pole plug that we previously installed. It'll go just like this. What I suggest doing is we're going to take some dielectric grease. We're going to put it on our connections. It's going to help keep it from corroding if there's any water that gets in there by chance. Put those together. We'll take a zip tie Run it between the plugs like this. And I'll tighten it down. This is going to keep the plugs from coming apart. You also can cut your two 4-pole plugs off if you want and hardwire it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my wire and I'm going to zip tie it up like this. If you want, there's a hole. If you have the draw tight bracket, there's a large hole right up in the top. You can actually run this up through here if you can get it all through there and connect them that way before you connect your two 4-pole plugs. You're going to have one Y wire that has a ring terminal on it. We need to ground that to the frame. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run it over the top of the hitch. I'm going to go straight up. There's a panel right there. It might be easier if you use the self-tapper and drill the hole first. Then we're going to have 3 wires left. Yellow, blue, and black. If you're not hooking up a reverse light signal, we're not going to be using this. Blue wire is going to be our brake signal coming from our brake controller. Black wire is going to be our power. In your kit, you're going to get a roll of duplex wire like this. You're going to strip back the coating. It's going to give you black wire and a white wire. Black wire is going to go to black, white is going to go to the blue wire. Then we'll take our 2 wires from our duplex and we will attach them accordingly. Once you get them connected, we'll come back with our heat source and we'll shrink them up. When you shrink a butt connector, what you want to do is try and get all the air out from underneath that butt connector where that wire is going in. And what you're looking for is at the very top, there's going to be some little liquid that comes out of it. You want to see that. What that is glue that's on the inside. It comes out and helps seal the end of the butt connector. I like to come back, run some electrical tape around each connection, and then we can bundle everything up together and get it covered. Now I'm going to take some of the Wireline that comes in the kit. I'm going to run it over top of my wires. However you think you need to run your wire loom on to protect the wires, and then we'll come back, we'll throw some electrical tape on there, and then we'll route our duplex wire or our jacketed wire up to the front of the vehicle. To run our duplex wire up to the front, typically you would run it same side as your battery's on. However, we're going to have to install a couple of circuit breakers, and there's not a whole lot of room on the driver's side where the battery is. So what I did is I ran my duplex wire, or a jacketed wire, across the back of my hitch, and then routed it underneath my heat shield. When we're routing this, we want to make sure we're staying away from anything hot or moving. I went over top my rear suspension, went over top these factory lines, followed these factory lines straight down, and then we have a panel. This panel runs from here all the way up to the front. On the outside, take a 10mm socket and it has little plastic nuts. You're going to take them off all on one side. You can pull this down and you can just tuck your wire up inside. From the top, what I did is took an airline tube and I ran it down right up against the firewall. And then I took my jacketed wire, taped it on the end. Now I can go up top and I can pull this up and I'm going to pull it tight up against that firewall. Again, so we're staying away from anything hot or moving. In your kit, you're going to get 3 circuit breakers. You need to determine whatever brake controller you're using is going to determine what circuit breakers you're using. For the Curt Spectrum, we're going to be using the 30 amp and the 40 amp. We need to find somewhere in metal to mount these, and the reason I came over to the passenger side is because we have this large bracket right here, or this large part of the body where we can mount them. I'm going to mount one here and then the other one right next to it. To make it easier on myself, I'm going to take a 10mm socket, remove the 2 nuts up here, or the 2 bolts, and then the one down here, and we're just going to kind of move this out of the way just a little bit. That and set it off to the side like that. Now I was going to mount two of them up here. I think I'm just going to mount one, and I'll mount the other one right down here. It might be easier if you take your self-tapper, do a hole first, or at least start it. Then we can take our circuit breaker, go ahead and get one screw in, and we can come back and install the other one. And then we'll do the same thing with them right down here. Get my wire pulled over. Then we have some factory hard lines here. I'm going to zip tie that wire there, anywhere in here, to help keep it from dropping back down. So now what we need to do is we need to split this jacket to separate our wires somewhere back in here. We're going to take our white wire and it's going directly across. Our black wire is going to be connecting to our two circuit breakers. So this is going to give me extra white wire going that way. I'm going to strip it back a little bit more here. I can take this wire, just kind of throw it that way for now. Now we're going to take our black wire. We're going to go to our 40 amp circuit breaker. That's going to be my top one that I mounted here. We're going to measure it up where we need it. We're going to cut it to length, strip back the end. We're going to add one of the small ring terminals that comes in the kit. We're going to add it onto the silver post on our circuit breaker. We'll take our extra black wire, we'll strip back one end. We're going to add on another small ring terminal. We're going to add that onto the copper post. And we're going to route this one over to the positive side of our battery. You look right here, there's some factory wiring right against the firewall. I'm just going to file that, zip tie it along the way. My battery sits right over in front of my air breather. And where your battery is, there's a sleeve here for your air box. This is just going to pop out. And then your battery is located right here. Now, the way we ran this, our black wire, we're not going to have enough. Typically what we do is we cut it, we'd go from the battery back over to the 30 amp, and then from the 30 amp inside the vehicle. We're not going to have enough, so it is going to require a little bit of extra wire. We'll take our white wire and we're going to lay it off to the side like that. We're going to leave this black wire hanging here. We're not going to connect them to the battery yet. We're going to get some extra wire. Now we're going to go from the 30 amp over. So our extra black wire, our 30 amp circuit breaker, we're going to go from the copper post. We're going to route it over the same way we did our other ones. And that one is going to get connected to the battery. To help keep us from getting our wires confused, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut these to length. I'm going to add on my two large ring terminals. I'm just not going to connect them to the battery. That way we don't get them confused with the other black wire we have to run inside. Well, the two large ring terminals are going to the positive side of the battery. We're just going to leave them hang for now. The silver post, I'm going to install the nut. Route this wire across. Go ahead and get our wires zip tied up so they're not hanging. Next, what we need to do is we need to get to a grommet that's right back here on the firewall. With our air box in place, it's kind of hard to get to it. So there's a bolt right here in this corner. Go ahead and remove this clamp. Let's see if we can't get our box out of the way enough where we can get back in there. We're going to have a bolt in each corner here on the front side of our lid. Let me slide this off. So from here, it's up to you. It seems like we have enough room to get to our grommet there. You can either work with it like this, or if you want to pull your whole box out, right down on the bottom, right there, you remove that, and you can pull this large jug out. There's your grommet right back there. It's going to be right to the right of your brake booster. I'm taking a long, small screwdriver, see if I can poke a hole in it from here. I may end up having to move the box anyway. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this screwdriver out. I'm going to take a couple of bigger size ones. I'm going to make that hole bigger. What we don't want to do is we don't want to just go jump up to a huge screwdriver to make that hole, because we take a chance of pushing the grommet out. So there's going to be two grommets under the dash. There's going to be one lower, you're going to go to the one above it. It's going to be to the left side of your brake pedal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get my white wire, or my black, either one, through both holes to the inside. And then I can take my other wire and tape it to it, and that'll allow me to pull the other one in. Now from the inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an airline tube and I'm going to push it through that hole, which will allow me to bring my wires in. And it may be easier if you have someone on the outside that can tell you where if you're close to the outside hole. So I'm going to take my airline tube, tape my wires to it, and then we can pull them inside the vehicle. You're going to have a little connector. It's going to come like this. You want to make sure that this lid is open. We're going to turn it and face it down. You're going to have 6 colored wires. We can start at either end. I'm going to start from the right end if we're looking at it. The very end one we're not going to use. We're going to go to the second one end. We're going to insert the red one. The next one, we're going to insert the black one. Next is going to be blue. Next will be brown. Then green. And then last will be white. And then our very end one, again on each end, is going to be open. So if you'll notice, the ends, they need to come all the way up to the edge of this connector here. Once you get them in, where they're going to stay, we can close this lid down and snap it into place. Once we have our black and our white wire ran through the firewall, next we need to find a brake signal for our wire to connect to. Since we can't tap into the brake light switch on the brake pedal, driver's side kick panel, right above it, you're going to have a plastic block, and it has a bunch of different factory wires going into it. What you're going to do is you're going to follow it all the way to the top, the plug all the way to the right side, which is going to be the closest one to the firewall. You're going to find the green wire with the white stripe. The kit's going to come with a quick splice connector. You're going to take a piece of wire, and you need to attach the quick splice connector onto the green wire with the white stripe and add a length of whatever color wire you're going to use. I'm using red wire because we're going to be using or tapping into the red wire on the brake controller itself. Now if we're using the adapter, adapter doesn't come with your kit. You can find it here at E-Trailer. On the end you're going to have 4 wires, black, blue, red, and white. We're going to take the black, the blue, the red, and the white. They should be stripped back. You're going to get buck connectors in your kit. We're going to add one onto each end. We're going to take our black wire that we ran through the firewall. We're going to cut it down, strip back the end. We're going to add it to the black wire on our adapter plug. We're going to do that same thing, white to blue and red to red. For my white wire, this is going to be my ground. I need to extend it so I can ground it somewhere either behind this panel or up on the firewall to a metal surface. I'm going to use the extra wire that we cut off. You can use the black or the white, it doesn't really matter. I cut a little hole in the plastic to get to the metal part of the firewall. So my ground wire, there's a bunch of plastic here and I wasn't able to get over to this side, so what I did is I cut a hole in it, moved the backing so I can get to the metal surface of the firewall. Added in my ring terminal, self-tapper, and grounded my wire right to the body. Now I'm going to take my control unit, connect it into the end of the plug that we just did all of our wiring on. This is going to have to be mounted to a solid surface. I'm going to make sure you don't zip tie to any factory wiring. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it right up here on the kick panel. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. It's going to come with a couple of self-tappers, or it's going to come with two-sided sticky tape. I am going to use the two-sided sticky tape just in case the customer decides they want to move it to a different location. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind is where you're going to be mounting the actual controller itself. I'm going to be mounting mine. It's going to be closer to the driver's door. So if you were going to be mounting your controller more towards the center of the dash, you might want to test fit, make sure that everything's going to reach before you would mount this over here. I'm going to make sure that end right there is facing the direction wherever you're going to be mounting your actual controller itself. Get this up here as high as we can get it. We'll take our actual controller, get it plugged into the end. I'm actually going to mount my controller right here. Now it's going to come with two different ways to mount this as well. You got the two-sided sticky tape, or it has an actual mounting plate that you would drill into the dash. I'm not going to drill it into the dash just in case the customer wants to move it later. Stick it right on the back. Make sure wherever you're going to be sticking it, if you're using the two-sided tape, that it's clean. Now I'm just going to take my wire and I'm going to tuck it right in back behind this panel right here. Once I get it all the way tucked in, all the way down underneath the dash, then I can kind of clean up everything else and zip tie that to some factory wiring. Now we're going to take a 10mm socket. I'm going to loosen this. This is our positive post, or jump post. Go ahead and connect my two black wires. Once we get those on, we'll go ahead and test out our brake controller, and then we can start putting everything back together. Now we'll test it out. We have lights, it means we have power. Now we're going to test our 7-volt plug, make sure it's connecting with our brake controller. Left turn, right turn, brakes, running lights, brake controller. That's going to do it for a look at and installation on the Curt Spectrum Brake Controller, along with the ETBC7 on 2020 Chrysler Pacifica.